Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Friday night football talk. Hey, this pro edition. We've had a whole season of college football. In the last few weeks, we've been looking at the pro football side of things. A little bit different, uh, but always the same thing. Football is football at the end of the day, and the drama and all the excitement just adds to what makes the game great. We can't worry about all the rule changes, but hey, at the end of the day, the drama, the pageantry, the bragging rights, and all come together. So, and let me go ahead and without further ado, bring on this guy who knows almost everything in NFL you could think of and ever hope to think of. The great Clobberin Times. Hey, Clobby.
Hey, buddy. I'm far from that. I know nothing. You don't know much about the modern NFL.
Well, but hey, I love the depth of your historical knowledge and recalling all the stuff that I forgot as a youngster.
It's
Yes, and
fun.
I love the throwback logos and everything else.
Yeah,
So,
cool.
how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm all right, man. I'm all right. Just glad to be here. It's always good to see you. Good to see you. And looks like we have somebody. We have a lady here already. Is
Yeah,
that right?
Daisy Blossom. Hey,
Hey.
Daisy. She's over on our Twitch side. So, hey, folks,
All
if you're on
right.
Twitch, make sure you follow us over there. We'll get to 100 on that side and have another party.
There you go.
And
All right.
hey, the great one herself has entered the room.
Oh,
Mrs. Dadman,
the
thank you.
missus. Hey, missus.
Oh, thank you, and hope more people come in through here. But yeah, like I said, Clobby, and I think we kind of touched on it last week. Is yeah, that's we've only been doing this pro talk for a few weeks, and it's probably about the right time. Yeah, I look at pro sports in a way that until the last few weeks, it doesn't really get dramatic because the season, their games, and they do add up. But we're the pro sports; it could be any of them get exciting or
Right.
at the end when you're chasing the playoff races. So,
Mm-hmm.
how's it been this year? I mean, like you and I both have been people that really have not been so involved with the league in the last few years. But how does it feel to get kind of back into it, at least for this playoff run?
Well, again, as we've talked many times, how my disenchantment over the past couple of years, but leading up to it for about 50 years, it was something that was it was always my favorite time of year. Not I mean the whole football season, of course, but especially playoff time and leading. Even if my beloved team didn't make it, I was still really excited about the playoffs in general. I mean, obviously you want your team to get there, but even if your team doesn't, for me, if you're a fanatic for the game, I always loved it the whole time of the playoffs. It always felt like extended Christmas until after the Super Bowl. It felt like Christmas was still going on for me, and I always really looked forward to it. And because of certain things that I got out of it for a couple of years, I'm still kind of sort of out of it. But this year, I let myself kind of back in just to kind of just enjoying the playoffs a little bit, even just for the because I missed it a little bit. I guess I just let myself go. I let myself backslide, I guess, to get a little into it, to watch it. And because I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention, still not like I used to, but it's like going to an alien planet. The game is over a short period of time changed so much that it's still a little different, but it's still it was fun to follow these playoffs. It was some pretty interesting ones. So it still kind of felt like it was kind of fun to come back into it. I think now my perspective is to a point where I don't know if I'll ever I'm like that old man who really just gets to a point where he knows he's changed. His life has changed so much that he can't go back to the way it was, but he can kind of just once in a while look back and have fond memories.
Mm.
Looking back and enjoying the playoffs a little bit is kind of fun. It'll never be the same for me, but I still love the game so much that even the way they've changed so many things that really bother me now that I won't go into here. Even this is still there's a certain good bit of a high drama about the playoffs that is still not lost its allure in that respect, and still
Mm-hmm.
interesting to me, and still pretty and entertaining enough to at least during the playoffs now to watch it a little bit. When there was a time when every week, man, the slate of games, and just everything about what was going on, all of the goings on, and everything in the NFL, really just, I mean, it was really something I really paid attention to a pretty good bit. And now I'm just sort of like, yeah, and, to the point where I don't even know a lot of the personnel like I used to.
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah, but it's not
still
a bad.
fun.
I don't. It's not necessarily a bad place to be either, because we can talk about that a little bit too. With the we've talked about rule changes. I mean, the protection of the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, defensive play. There's been so much about the game that has changed from
Yes.
a competitive standpoint from what you and I grew up with and what we were used to years ago. And some
Yeah.
good rule changes, but some are just what is holding the pass interference or not pass interference. So many things with it just seems like so much has changed, which has affected the games. But I think at the end of the day, you hit the nail on the head. It's like there's just still something about it that pulls you in.
It's still when it gets to this point, the thing that I think the best thing about it is there are some extremely talented quarterbacks, and it is a very much more than ever a quarterback game.
Mm-hmm.
And it right now do happen to be at a time where you have some. I mean, because it's not their fault; they're playing in an era where the rules have softened things and where the rules have changed the game a little bit. It's not those guys' fault; they're just players.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got some of the most talented quarterbacks as far as a batch of talent quarterbacks. This is kind of pretty good. There are quite a few of them right now, which is pretty cool.
Well,
And
yeah.
it's fun there, which makes them fun to watch.
Well, you
So,
talk of quarterback, and I'm going to jump on this one because I wasn't necessarily sold at first, but like Trevor Lawrence, the Jaguars quarterback.
mm-hmm.
I mean, they talked about him today being the one of those ride it destiny type quarterbacks locally, and it's been so long since since Mark Brunell was probably the last quarterback anybody made talk of that here.
Uh-huh.
We talk about the excitement. This city, this town had a resurrection of a team that was basically an accepted doormat for so long. And you get civic pride, stuff like that. Hey, look at the first playoff game. They look at the regular season game, the way it ended, a dramatic turnover return for a touchdown that bailed them out, got them in the playoffs and a division title. And then first game in, they fall down. What is it, 27-0, and they come back and win the daggum game. Who would have seen that? Who would have thought that? And those are the type of things that do make it exciting and do kind of keep you wanting to keep an eye on the door, kind of like that one thing of, I'm not going to look and watch, but you're looking out of the corner of your eye.
Yeah, he looks like he has the potential to be the real deal. No question about that.
Absolutely. And Daisy kind of agrees with us. The game has changed so much. I don't always understand the new rules. Yeah, there's a lot of thing. And to the point about the quarterback, Daisy's a big 49ers fan, yes. And we're going to talk about that very, very soon because that's going to be the first game we talk about. Yeah, you've got to have a quarterback in this league.
It's quarterback league.
Yep. It's funny, it seemed like teams of the 70s and 80s, there's a time where running backs dominated, maybe in the 60s. But starting with the 70s, we saw the importance of the quarterbacks between Staubach, Stabler, Bradshaw.
Yeah, right at the little before the merger, as they call it, or in other words, right around the beginning of the Super Bowl era. If you look back at all the Super Bowls, we've had 56 played, right? Now we're coming up on 57.
Mm-hmm.
I've thought about this a lot. I think if you were to crunch the numbers, I'm not much of a numbers person, but you would probably find that about anywhere from 75, somewhere to 75% of all of the Super Bowls have been won by Hall of Famers or at least perennial Pro Bowlers. Almost up to you probably get Hall of Famers maybe almost like the 75%, which is a crazy number if you think about it. And then the rest of them at the minimum were won by Pro Bowlers, like guys who were perennial Pro Bowlers. And you would find very little that were won by average quarterbacks and almost negligible how many were run by a below average quarterbacks. The only two below average quarterbacks I can think of that have won Super Bowls would be Brad Johnson and Trent Dilfer. Now, quarterbacks who played in Super Bowls that didn't win it, that goes up a little bit. You probably have a few quarterbacks here and there that were like below average. Rex Grossman started in the Super Bowl. So, I mean, I know he's a Florida He's a Florida
Yeah.
boy for you guys, but point blank, Rex Grossman was not a good NFL quarterback. It was that Bears defense, and the NFC was kind of. It was a year we should have went. But anyway, but what I'm saying is, even they at the outset of the Super Bowl era, in fact, all the way up until into the 80s, almost every Super Bowl, both the winning side and the loser side, almost every one of those games had Hall of Famers starting. Only one or two had all of them had Hall of Fames winning, and only one or two had. It wasn't until like Super Bowl 15 or 16 when Jim Plunkett won it, who you could argue should be in the Hall of Fame, won it. Before Jim Plunkett won that one, every single one of them was won by a Hall of Famer. Hall of Famer, not a great football player either. A great football player, which because he's in the Hall of Fame. So not just like a good football player, a great quarterback. So it was even then a quarterback league, even back when running backs were big. Whereas some of those teams didn't have legendary running backs, but all of them had legendary quarterbacks that I'm talking about.
Absolutely. And that was, because where I'm trying to go with this, I did want to say something real here while you were talking. I loved all your points of that. Yeah, we had a bot come through on the Twitch side. Yeah.
Did you have that one last week?
Want to offer me promotion and stuff like that.
Oh,
so, hey, that's kind of funny.
Gotcha.
Hey, let's say hi to Steve Mitchum.
Hey, Manny's Daddy.
Daddy.
Hi, buddy.
Sports ball fans dropping a like and then not staying. Watch other people play games. I just don't get it.
I don't know.
Well, hey, I tell you what, if you just like to hear history, Clobby's got a wealth of history knowledge.
He doesn't care about that stuff. Look, I don't know. I mean, if I ever figure it out, buddy, you'll be the first one I explain it to.
Yep. Well, to the point of the quarterbacks and the running backs and the balance, used to the running backs would get the big contracts too. But now with the way the league has changed, I look at somebody like Ezekiel Elliott for the Cowboys, very dominant running back, but the way the offense is kind of merged and they got a third down back replacing him half the time, it seems like we're in the age where the running backs have only a shorter lifespan and their careers end sooner and they're not always worth investing those that kind of money in like the quarterbacks are now.
Yeah. He had to make a history joke to try to embarrass me, but I'm not going to bite on it. He means NFL history, but I think you do that. No, I'm not.
Hey, at least Steve's participating. We got him here on the sports ball show.
Like I need him humiliating me.
I
can humiliate myself just fine, thank you. So anyway, you had to highlight it, dude. Jeez.
I'm sorry. Anyway. Oh, he's having fun. He's having fun with us.
Well, if he's having fun, I guess it doesn't matter whose expense it's at. It's worth it.
Oh, I think he's really getting at me too because he comes through with the sports ball thing and runs and leaves. Yeah. But it's always good to see.
People don't like us sports ball people.
Nah, it's okay.
I'm not even that much of a sports ball person. Other than the NFL, I don't really like any other. Sports.
But like what I was going to say is with that is that how we've talked about all the league changes and that just seems the one that I've noticed in recent years, having kept up with it a little bit more than you, is that the running backs it's almost like if they have their careers are much shorter than they used to be. Like Earl Campbell and those guys, they played forever, but they wore their bodies out.
I don't know, dude. Earl Campbell had a very short career, so it's always been short. Jim Brown only played 9 years. Of course, he could have played a little longer.
Yeah.
Jim Brown and Barry Sanders got out before they could have. They were still close to their prime, but for the most part,
yeah.
I don't know. A couple of them lasted a long time, but it's back then they really got beat up pretty good.
Yeah. Well, Barry Sanders is probably one of the most famous cases where he he got out after he made his money, but then again, look at who he played for too.
I can answer one thing Steve said that I don't agree with. He said, fans always say we won. I'm wondering why they say we when they didn't contribute. I got news for you. When it comes to the team I love, I was loving it since before those spoiled brat millionaires signed with them and then won somewhere else. Fans contribute all right. They contribute loyalty. Mm-hmm. They are the customers. They pay to go to the games when they can afford it. They support the team during garbage seasons. They go try to encourage those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And they've poured their hearts into it. They want to win. I think they do contribute. I mean,
Oh,
they may not be getting paid to play for the team, but a lot of those players, they go there and they get a little bit of money for a couple of years, and they go take it somewhere else and get money somewhere else. It's the team itself, the brand. I believe players, I believe fans do contribute. They're the heart of any sports team.
crowd noise. You look at how crowd noise plays a role
Crowd
in
noise
games.
affects games.
Yeah.
It actually affects outcomes.
It does. This is neat, though.
Wow, Barry Sanders card.
Wow, that's impressive. Probably want to hold on to that one.
I got to watch him. I got to go to one game that he came here to the Superdome. And back when the Saints had what you call the Dome Patrol, their greatest defense with the only time the team sent all 4 of their starting linebackers to the Pro Bowl.
Wow.
Ricky Jackson, Vaughn Johnson, Sam Mills, and Pat Swilling. And they held, in a dome, mind you, they held number 20, Barry Sanders, to 20 yards.
And hello, Jess. And yeah,
Hey,
fans
Jess.
buying the team stuff helps pay to the team, revenue to the team. Yeah,
Yep.
royalties, merchandise sales. Things like that.
I'll never get, like, when my team would win something or whatever, I don't get paid for it. I don't get the trophy. I don't get to keep any of that stuff. But I know that it means more to me almost than it does those players. In some cases, some fans, it means more to some fans than it does the players. They get money for it. They get the good players, of course, it means a lot to them as well. But yeah,
no, I agree with you.
Being
One of my stories about, like, I've always told you about the catch and how it ruined. Had to live with that as a Cowboys fan forever till the next time they beat the Niners in the playoffs. It does take it hard. It just and I think to your point, some players, they might be upset temporarily, but they'll walk off and go to the next contract. The fans are the ones that are sitting there heartbroken and just devastated. I mean, like imagine that 4-year stretch, as we mentioned before, the Bills fans make 4 straight Super Bowls, lose every game, every one of them. So
that multimillionaire who goes and has a crappy 4-12 season or whatever you want to call it, a garbage season where they win, he's still at the end of a lousy Sunday, and when they lost, he doesn't like it. If he's any kind of a decent player, he gets pissed. But most of them, they get to drive home in their expensive car to their expensive house and play video games and mess around with their family. And if they lose, they don't like it. It sucks, but they'll they still got a pretty good life and stuff. A fan who busts ass to make ends meet, does all the stuff, they want to be entertained and enjoy their team, takes it sometimes way worse than a player does for the loss and everything. But anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a little more that way on the college side than the pros, but still, it does. It's when you're a fan of a team and it does sit with you and bug you. It does stick with you. And Steve saying the fact they go from one team to another just shows they aren't loyal to the city, loyal to the bank account. And that's true. Right. But you got to kind of give them a break though too. They got to make the money while they can.
Oh yeah.
And it's hard. It's like if you got anybody else in their normal job, if you got a better job offer, that you take care of your family somewhere else.
No, sure.
You got to do it.
Oh no, I get that. I'm just saying, for them, it is a business. For a fan, it's something you choose to love. So a fan is choosing to put their heart into it. But the player doesn't mean the player is not. The player wants to win because they could be doing something else with their life. They're getting paid a lot of money to play a kid's game because people like to watch it. I can't explain to Steve or anyone else why people like to watch it by the millions and the millions upon millions, but they do. And you get invested in a team as a fan, and just same way you get invested in a comic book or a movie or whatever, Star Wars, whatever it is, as a fan, you just do. I can never explain any of that, but you do. But it doesn't mean that the players don't want the glory and all that stuff and don't want to win. But it's, and they do have to take care of themselves and their family and their money stuff. But there have been instances where players have taken pay cuts to stay on a team that they felt loyal to.
Yes.
You don't have that much. Archie Manning, one of the greats, and of course, you know what his sons did. Archie Manning got off when he had the misfortune when they came out in the 1971 draft. That was the first draft. It was like 20-something years later before the next draft had 2 quarterbacks go 1 and 2. But Jim Plunkett went to the New England Patriots, and Archie Manning went to the New Orleans Saints. They were the first two on the board. Plunkett didn't have a great career either till he got washed up, went to San Francisco, then went to Los Angeles Raiders and won 2 Super Bowls. Archie stuck it out. He was with the Saints for about 11 years. And they were talking, he said he got offered some free agency to go to a couple of different teams later in his career when everyone saw how talented he was, even though he was getting banged up playing for a garbage team like the Saints. And he said, no, I mean, I want to be on a winner here. I want to stay here to where he said that multiple times. He told his agents, he told team, I want to be on a winner here. And then in the early 80s, unfortunately, I loved Bum Phillips, but Bum Phillips moved over from Houston to the Saints and traded Archie back to Houston. And then brought a broken down Earl Campbell here who couldn't run anymore.
Yeah.
Bad knees. And Archie was like, oh, my God, man. Archie even said in an interview, he said, Bum, he told Bum, he said, I'll forgive you for trading me, but I'll never forgive you for trading me to Houston.
Yeah.
and then he got traded to Minnesota and played like a couple of games and left.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like leaving home.
He was loyal to his team. And I just realized we hadn't talked about the playoffs
yet. That's also the thing, too, is loyalties can be a two-way street, though. And it is, at the end of the day, of a cold business, because how many times do you see that the teams end up, when those players end their usefulness to them, to their benefit, the teams just drop them, So it is kind of a two-way street with it being a business aspect. I think you got to always keep that in mind. It's all at the end of the day, it is business.
There's a business component to it. Yeah, no question about it.
And I'm just going to try to say this, and that's good.
Okay.
I just would say, from my standpoint, as somebody that's grown up on sports and likes sports, it's your perspective of what you interest. If you're drawn to like comics or things like that, you're going to emotionally invest in it and things like that. I played a lot of sports growing up. I like it. So that's a natural thing for me to emotionally invest in. And I think sometimes it's just people tend to put that emotional investment in something that they see that others may not understand. My wife loves sewing and stuff and can get into so much stuff. And I'm like, I'll never understand it though, but hey, that's okay.
In that case, if we're fencing, I will go back. Yeah. Well, in that case, if you're going to use it that way, I can explain it too.
Yeah.
Anyway, we hadn't even talked about playoffs yet.
Yes. Well, we'll get there. Let me say, Jess, or needing to find the team that's right fit. Sometimes they need to switch teams to fit either run or throw style that's more them. And this is a common thing, coaching or player personality clashes.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Free agency changed the game.
Yes, it did.
Long time ago. That's a long time ago now.
I know. That's like in the 70s, the Cowboys were the same team every year forever, because they were just the same team. You didn't have the free agency.
Yeah, so. Free agency really changed.
Hi, Wade. All right, well, let's go ahead and talk about the first game of the day of the week that we're going to look at. Let me do something here real quick, and I'll bring it up. And we will look at the game that was not really that much of a game in the end, but there's a lot of factors that went into it. The NFC championship game, the Eagles dominated the 49ers 31-7. It was fairly close at halftime in spite of San Francisco with the Mr. Irrelevant as quarterback, and then he gets knocked out of the game. So the second string comes in to play, and then he gets taken out for concussion protocols. So what a game. It's been a while since I've seen something like that. Clobby, any type of thoughts?
It was bizarre, and it was tragic. All right, Steve, take it easy, bro.
Thank you, Steve.
Good, man.
Yeah, hit the like button. Follow us on Twitch and subscribe on this YouTube side. We're at 121 tonight.
It was cool. Man. It was bizarre, and it was tragic because, the game. It's not. See you tomorrow, brother. Good to see you. Hey to Maddie.
Absolutely.
It's not like they weren't even ever. It's almost like they called the game off, in a sense. They didn't, but it was almost like a forfeit situation, if you know what I mean. Because you go in, you got this one young quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant. I was really wanting to see him give it a shot to play the whole game. And then just that fluky thing happens, and you're like, well, that happens. But it's rare that two quarterbacks go out. You bring in the other guy who has a buddy. Oh, I don't know if my nephew, if you're out there, buddy, read me a list of all the teams that was he Josh Johnson or what his guy's name was?
Yeah, Josh Johnson.
Do you know how many teams
he was with Miami or Tampa?
You know how many teams he's been on?
Yeah.
Look it up.
10 or 12?
It will boggle your mind.
All right.
It's been around a long time. So anyway, I mean, he read the list to me. We kept expecting him to stop, but it was anyway. He came out there and did a good job. My problem is this: 49ers. I don't know why they you should carry three quarterbacks. They always have an emergency guy, but your emergency guy shouldn't be your main running back. And then, so when you did get out there and you let Brock come back in and he can't throw it. And look, McCaffrey's important to have as a running back, but McCaffrey could at least look, you're down how many scores? You have no time to run the football. That was conceded the game at that point. When you were letting Brock hand off knowing he couldn't throw it, instead of putting McCaffrey back there, maybe in the Wildcat, let him run a little bit, let him then move around and throw a little bit, run some plays where you got a guy throwing the ball, chucking it downfield. If somebody, I don't care who they are, I don't care if you let a punter go in there and chuck it down the field, you got to go in there and throw it downfield, or your season's already over anyway. But take a shot, for God's sake. That was like, look, we've lost both our quarterbacks, guys. We're just going to run the clock out because we don't have a chance now. No, you don't have a chance. You don't have much of a chance, but you certainly have zero chance if you don't try. That's the one thing. If you don't even make the attempt at something, then you certainly have already lost. So they conceded the game by running out there and just running the ball until it was over. Well, they threw like one. They let McCaffrey throw like one or two passes down the field.
Yeah, one pass. I got the box score because here, let's look at that real quick with the box score.
I mean, that's loser give up football. They were like, yeah, you guys took our
because Purdy threw
our quarterback out.
Purdy threw the four passes early. Johnson came in for 13 attempts, and then after that, it was like nothing. It was just the one attempt McCaffrey had tried, and you, like you said, it is like you're just walking in forfeiting the game at that point.
It was a forfeit. There's like, wow, this game has more than half to go.
Yeah,
have to go,
exactly. And
you just forfeited it. The Eagles were like, "Thanks, guys." I mean, you're not even going to try because to me, you're not. I don't care if you get the water boy out there throwing the football. Somebody should be throwing the football down the field to try because it's something you're trying to go to the Super Bowl. Why not let your emergency quarterback? Or how about this? Maybe you need to start carrying three quarterbacks again, NFL, because they used to do that.
Well, some teams still do. I mean, at least when you head to the playoffs, bring somebody up from the practice squad or something, even if you don't carry three during the regular season. But like this game illustrates the need for having that third quarterback as an option, or do this like Danny White was the main backup to Staubach. But if your punter
too,
if your punter could be a truly, and some punters can do it. I've seen some in college this year. The punters can throw pretty good. It's like have that as your emergency quarterback, because what's the point of having an emergency quarterback if all they're going to do is hand off? Because like you said, you're basically forfeiting the game there.
I remember that Monday night game in the late 80s or early 90s, whatever it was, where the Redskins, I said a dirty word, didn't I? Lost two quarterbacks. And then and Brian Mitchell had to come in, who was a top-notch return guy and all this other stuff. And I think he led him to a win, if I'm not mistaken. He was the emergency quarterback. So I know all teams have an emergency quarterback. Often it's a running back or somebody like that.
Yeah.
But when you have an emergency quarterback, because they said McCaffrey was the emergency quarterback.
Yeah.
Then he needs to be throwing the football. You're down by what? 3 touchdowns? What was it? 3 scores?
Yeah.
So,
or at least
he needs to be throwing it.
Or if your running back's your emergency quarterback, but at least if it's emergency quarterback for a single game, that's one thing. But you're in the playoffs. If you're not going to let your emergency quarterback throw the ball, then
why are you letting Brock Purdy come in there when he can't throw it? That's what I'm saying. I mean, anybody can hand the ball off.
Yeah.
Why are you? I mean, that was so asinine. When I saw him out there, that poor kid, they said, look, the game's over. Just hand the ball off so we can get this over with. I'm like,
Yeah.
you losers. Man, if I were a 69ers fan, John Lynch was, I mean, I don't know why he let that happen. Of course, he can't do much, I guess. But Shanahan, I'm furious with Shanahan. It's not even my team. I'm like, that's loser stuff, dude. Go all out. I mean, now you really have to go all out. It's the second half. You're probably not going to the Super Bowl because you lost your quarterbacks. Granted, but go out there and try to go to the Super Bowl, dude. What?
Well, one of the things too that happened. I mean, you're playing at that point with a backup quarterback with Johnson in the game. I don't want to go back to near the end of the first half because the score was 14-7. Philadelphia had just taken the lead. There was under 2 minutes left. You got the backup quarterback in and on the road. And instead of maybe being conservative and getting into halftime down 7, they had Johnson trying to throw on a long down and ended up fumbling the ball, giving Philadelphia
field goal,
like the ball at the 20 or 30 yard line, and they get forced moved in for a quick touchdown. So you go from a 14-7 game to 21-7, and then it floodgates open. What do you think about that type of decision? I mean, doing that in that situation.
I mean, look, just let the clock run out. Go in at 14-7.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Because you got in that case where your starters out will not come back in.
Your starter's not in there, right?
Yeah. And you're on the road in a hostile environment. Why put your quarterback at the risk? And then he got a concussion, I think,
in the third quarter,
in the second half, and then it was. I mean, at that point, you're down 21-7 with the backup quarterback. Then it gets worse when the quarterback gets knocked out. Well, speaking of that, Clobby, the team that he's played for, he started. The Buccaneers, the Browns, the Bengals, the 49ers in 2 stints, the Jets twice, the Colts, the Bills, the Ravens twice, the Giants, the Texans, the Washington football team, the Lions,
the Redskins even,
and the Broncos. Yes, the Redskins. So it looks like this is his.
It's insane.
It's his second stint with San Francisco. So 13 teams.
Let me be clear on something. I'm not saying they had much of a chance, but at least I don't care if it's 100-1 chance. Okay, at least but I'll tell you when you have 0 chance, when you don't even make the attempt. That's when you don't take the shots at all. Then you have. Yeah. I mean, I don't care if you let your grandmother go out there and throw the ball. At least she's throwing it. I mean, you're not even trying. You're like, hand the ball off, get it over with. You think you're gonna break out some 70-year-old? I mean, some 70-yard runs or something? You're not gonna do that against that defense. So the run plays were give ups, chucking it down the field, and I don't care if you throw 5 interceptions. I mean, at least you realize you have no quarterbacks. You let some emergency guy go in there. Your season's over anyway, man. Take a shot. I mean, you're probably not going to win. But what if the miracle happens and you win it? Then you got to wait 2 weeks and bring some other quarterback because Purdy wouldn't have been ready. He's out for.
I don't understand why you make anybody emergency quarterback if they can't throw the football.
I don't get it.
At least a little bit. And I just want to quickly say hi, Castle. Thanks for swinging by. Appreciate you coming through. Yeah, I
hate give up football, man. I hate give up football.
Yeah, it's just why are we wasting our time? Just throw a flag and forfeit the rest of the game.
May as well forfeit. They got but I'm going to try, which is what they did.
Yeah, I mean, if you had a great running game, but I mean, at that point, nobody respects the pass. They're going to come up. The athletes are too good. There's no way you're going to run like that on them.
It was uninspiring. It's a pathetic thing to show. Of course, NFL's full of pathetic, idiotic examples, and this was something. It was a disgrace on the part of the 49ers to give up in front of the whole world just because look, I've seen teams go down 50-something-0 in college or whatever, and they still every play they came out and tried to score. They would try no matter what. You go out there, just like when you go into when a team, how many times you've seen it? When a team's down, I mean the game's over, been over for a long time, but every time they got the ball, they tried to get down and put points on the board.
Well, we had it in the playoffs with the Jaguars and the big Chargers. I mean, that game that game was so disgusting with about 2 minutes left in that first half. And then the way it flipped on a dime for the second half was just incredible. Granted they had a quarterback that was throwing the ball, but you know what? They didn't even give McCaffrey a chance. Or I think, if anything, the teams need to reevaluate how many quarterbacks they carry, at least in the playoffs, because you never know what happens. Or have your punter. There are college punters that can throw that football pretty darn well.
Right.
Have your punter as your emergency. You've got to have that third quarterback to be able to throw the ball to some degree, even if it's a runner. McCaffrey's runner. Look, Lamar Jackson is a running quarterback, but he still has to throw the ball. Hurts runs a lot, but still has to throw the football. You take that throwing ability from either one of them, they're a one-dimensional quarterback. I mean, you're basically throwing out the white flag when you have an emergency quarterback that you won't even throw the ball. I think the closest I can compare it to is like in baseball. You know how in baseball sometimes when it's a big blowout and they throw a position player in to pitch just to save the bullpen. It's kind of like that move, where you just here, it's over. And I tell you, let's see. Daisy is a big 49er fan.
Sorry, Daisy.
It's very sad to watch.
Sorry about that.
I know it is, because I've had my share of those games, but
it was bad for a fan. It's also bad for any fan of the game to see a team just fold up and say, "We're not even going to try to throw the ball down the field." I mean, I would be angry if it were my team. I'm angry, and it's not even my team. I don't have a team anymore, so pretty much.
See, I wish if I had more. Johnson, I think, got knocked out early in the third quarter, I think.
Yeah.
So what that tells me is that Purdy probably threw his passes the first half. So how many passes did they really attempt in the second half? Like next to none, if McCaffrey only got one pass attempt. And what was bad is I kept seeing them try to run Deebo Samuel on those end arounds all the time. And it was like he had nowhere to go because everybody was up on the line, But Hurts didn't have to throw the ball that much, but it was enough.
No,
15 for
they didn't have to. That team didn't have to break a sweat. The Eagles, they did not have to work for that one, but the other game was a different story.
150 yards rushing as a team, 4 touchdowns on the ground though.
Listen, hey, we got the day off after all.
Yeah, but hey, so that is the first game of the week last week that we got to see. So now. Any other thoughts, or we pretty much kicked that one to death?
We're good on that one, buddy.
Okay. Next becomes the Chiefs and the Bengals. Sounds like the Bengals returned to their old form this week with the way this game ended in overtime. Ended in the fourth quarter with a last-second field goal, which was set up by a boneheaded out-of-bounds personal foul penalty.
Boy, oh boy.
Which was the guy was out of bounds, extended his arm, pushed the quarterback. You can't do it. We talked about the rules. But even then, that probably was a personal foul back in the old days because they were that far out of bounds.
He was way out of bounds. It was just, you're not showing any semblance of trying to pull back. I know you're running. I get it. But, if he had just been showing that he was trying to stop himself and he didn't just kind of bumped into him, they might let that go because it looks like he's not trying. But the fact is he shoved him. I mean, he didn't just run into him; he shoved him, right? I mean, you pull your hands back, you try to stop yourself, you grab the guy, you pull out you're trying not to knock him down. So I think if you're showing some you're not trying to run into the dude, you might be okay. But when he's that far out of bounds and you hit him, that's absolutely stupid. That is. Let me tell you something. That's the second. I don't know about the second. It's probably the second worst playoff ruining play I've seen in a couple of years. A few years ago, in the divisional round, as you know, my team was the Saints back then, and the game was over. The Saints had won the game. They ran the clock down to almost two couple seconds. It was way back in the Vikings territory. This was in Minnesota. They needed a touchdown to win, but they need a miracle because they were all back on behind their 10-yard, 10, something like that, right? And I'm talking about, I had some friends who were there, nephews who were there. If you looked at the faces of the coaches, they're all looking down. We lost. They were showing fans. They were leaving the stadium. They were lost. I mean, they had one play left. Case Keenum hangs one up there to Stephon Diggs right down the sideline.
Right.
He catches the ball, but he only catches it about like the midfield or something. And a New Orleans Saints defensive back by the name of Marcus Williams, you can see it clear. I mean, dives to the ground right in front of him. I don't know if you're familiar with this play.
I remember the play, yes.
And he just lets him run. And of course we lost. And I mean, that day, I can't put into words. It was be only a year later till we got it even worse, but it was a different type of play. How angry I was. We call it like a Bill Buckner type bad play. And it was so bad. Every time you watch it, man, it's like, what is he doing? Yeah. That's the number one of all time as far as a play that ruins, that you let another team beat, let another team win. This one is up there and probably maybe in the top 10 or 20, though, because if he doesn't pull that stupid play by shoving Mahomes, you have a good chance at overtime.
Yeah.
Because it's a 60-something yard field goal.
Right.
And they probably weren't going to risk it.
Probably not. Because I think it would have been fourth down also, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's either that or there was not enough time. You couldn't have done anything with the ball.
Third down or I don't know if it was fourth or third. Maybe third. But either way, that was.
But yeah,
your team you went from having a chance to no chance.
Yeah, and that's because
a good chance to no chance.
Well, because that's the thing is at this level, you put a kicker within a field goal range, they're going to make it unless they. Well, no, the Dallas Cowboys kicker can kick field goals. He just can't kick extra points. So
yeah, but still,
but
you wouldn't want to rely on him but you wouldn't after that point. You wouldn't want him to rely on him for a field goal if you had to, though.
No, I've always said, and I don't remember where I heard it. But I've always bought with the principle I've never depend on the kicker to win a game.
No.
Just never. Well, you remember old Pete Banaszak?
Yeah.
He had a saying when he was always on the Jag pregame or post-game shows years ago, when probably first 10 years of the team, he was always, he boiled his buns so much when kickers, either punters screwed up or kickers missed stuff, because he's like, you got one job, just kick the ball. Because he was a hard-nosed running back and things like that. And and you don't want to – you sit out there, you get busted, beaten around, all this other stuff, work your butt off. This guy with a clean shirt comes out, has to do one play a thing, and, you've worked hard. You don't want to end up losing a game because of a guy that just has to kick the ball.
Yep. Although, when they win it for you, you don't say nothing.
What's that?
But when they win it for you, they don't say anything bad.
No, they don't. That's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't jobs that you get.
Pressure. It's pressure.
Yeah, it's pressure.
You may not have a dirty shirt, but dude,
yeah,
you could you could ruin a season if you mess up.
Absolutely, very close. Yeah, I kept that Tampa Bay game. I kept waiting for Tampa Bay to come back because of all those missed extra points.
Me too. I was sure that was going to happen. I'm shocked. Only because Tampa Bay really sucks. They're really not very good. If that had been any decent team, you missed. Was it 5?
Mm-hmm.
Or 4? Was it 5?
5
extra points.
I think he missed 4. I think he missed the 5th. I think he missed the 5th at that point.
Yeah, it's 5.
Yeah.
If you miss 5 extra points in a playoff game, I'm astonished that you will still win it. The only way you can still win it is if your defense plays so well that the other team just can't score and they couldn't score.
And I tell you, I bet it had been a regular season game, he would have been cut before he would have had to find his own way home.
Yeah, they had no choice but to stick with it.
Yeah, you can't.
Remember, he missed it again in the next game. Remember?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he missed one again in the next one. So yeah, that's terrible. Yeah, kickers. But anyway, not only that, look, this was a tough, hard-fought game. The Bengals had a lot of opportunities. I was sad to see this happen. I don't have nothing. I have nothing against the Chiefs. They're a great team, and Mahomes is cool. I hope he can win this one. But I was kind of rooting for the Baton Rouge Burros a little bit. I must admit, just because I like Joe.
I got a friend that's a streamer friend that lives up there in the Cincinnati area. That's a big Bengals fan. So I was kind of hoping for them this year, but it's not to be. Not to be. Well, we still have 7 people watching us. Make sure you follow us on the Twitch side, and glad to see the activity on that side. And here on the YouTube, like and subscribe, and appreciate all the support. Here with my friend Clobby. Just talking some NFL football. Were there any other things that stood out about this game to you? Because I mean, it just seemed like it was so balanced. There was not really a big highs, big lows, except for the very end with that play.
Pretty evenly matched. Both teams blew some chances to run away with it, which is what good teams that are evenly matched. That's what happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
So no, again, it's a shame that it had to go on such a big mistake. If it, that's the worst part, man. When you lose, now error's part of the game,
Mm-hmm.
and there were some, when you lose because of a bonehead mistake like that. In other words, if you just, hey, let's say that the guy doesn't make that mistake, but then the Chiefs on the next play do something crazy and they win, and they make a big play, some down the field, or they get into a field goal range, or they just, let's say the Chiefs win it in a normal, like an overtime type deal.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm the Bengals, I'm like, well, still, you lost. You don't feel good anyway. You don't feel good anyway. But when you lose it on one like that, and when an asinine play that absolutely is fundamental football happens, that cost you the game, and that did cost them the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to sting even worse. I'm like, man, dude, you do one thing that you are paid and that you are trained not to do. I mean, if you just don't do one stupid thing, we were at least at a shot. That's really bad. It's nothing is as distasteful as the way that the Eagles 49ers game went because of what happened to the Niners.
Right.
Whether you like the team or not, just to see a game come up lame. In other words, a game was forfeited. It wasn't even played all the way through. As far as I'm concerned, that was a quarter and a half game. The game never really happened. It just got handed over to one team because the other team decided they didn't want to play without their quarterbacks, which is a tough place to play without your quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't even, they kind of just, that was a conceded game, in other words.
Right.
This one ends on a really stupid mistake. They're both kind of weird. For the championship games, that was a more competitive game. Don't get me wrong. The Bengals Chiefs was a more competitive and entertaining game, at least. And that makes it even kind of worse. Neither team lost their star quarterback. And yet it ends on a blunder. It ends on a bad, idiot mistake. I'm not sure which is worse.
I was just thinking along those lines. I'm glad you brought that up because that's a question. I mean, Daisy wants to chime in on it as a 49er fan because you go in one game thinking you're going to go toe to toe, you have a chance, and then it's one thing also to get blown out. Just the other team was better, they beat you badly. But this, like you said, was kind of more of the forfeit because we lost our quarterbacks and we couldn't compete. Versus the other where it's nose to nose, and then somebody makes one of those big mistakes that ends up costing you the game. I agree. I don't know which is worse. I mean, I've seen it all as a Gator fan and as a Cowboy fan, definitely.
Yeah, it's part of football, but
yeah,
it's just you hate. Look, again, you lose is to lose either way. You hate it, but when your team loses, I mean, I would rather get just blown out. Like I think I would rather just a team have a garbage day. Like, man, they had a crappy day, wasn't their day.
Yep.
Yeah, they made a couple of, or let's say, more of a football mistake. Like you just throw a pick and a couple of bad things go your way. But when it's something that's very simple, you don't, in this day and age, you don't even hurt a quarterback's feelings without getting a penalty. So you don't touch him, man. Outside the end, you don't even breathe on him.
Yep. And what's even worse is when, like in this play, they extend the arm. It's like, don't extend anything to get him. I mean, let him go.
Like as he rears up, he's probably okay.
Yeah.
And barely, but if your momentum brings him and you kind of graze him or you're pulling up, you're bumping to him in your chest a little bit. I'm sure they would let kind of even like that a little bit go if it's ticky tack. That wasn't ticky tack. I mean, you just can't push the guy.
Yeah. And especially if they run into the benches and everything as a result of it. And we're obviously talking about sideline plays. You can't, in the middle of the field, they're fair game. You hope, but if you got to be careful in the middle of the field that they don't fake you out, fake going down and then run past you. But yeah.
Unless they're Tom Brady.
Yeah.
You can't get near him.
Yeah, exactly. Although, there's still with him. I mean, he's probably going to go down as the greatest, but sometimes the great quarterbacks outsmart the defense, or they take advantage of the rules, and
Yeah.
You play within the game, and I tell you what, you play to the official's whistle, and you play the game and make them make a call. So, and
Indeed.
that's all you can do. So, all right. Well, I mean, like you said, this is a great game, but it was like there's not a lot to talk about except for the ending, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
Mahomes survived the game on the right ankle sprain. So probably will be good for the Super Bowl in a couple weeks.
Yeah, he'll be resting that sucker. I'm sure he'll be okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it brings up the Andy Reid Bowl, as one of our mutual fans had pointed out. The Eagles
Andy
versus
Reid
the
Bowl.
Chiefs. Yep.
Andy Reid Bowl. Something.
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some early thoughts I've got on it really is it's probably the best in terms of on paper matchup. It probably is the best matchup that they could have gotten. Both teams 14-3. Geographically for television, it should be great. You got a team in the Midwest at a pretty decent sized market, I would think, and then the big market in the Northeast with Philadelphia. I think the league has got to be happy where they didn't end up with
small market teams
like the Jaguars and the Packers or something, or Jaguars and
right. I think it's the Super Bowl, so at least you got to have one decent market team. Like Eagles are a decent sized market, a big market, and the Chiefs now, because they've been to almost like, what is it, 3 out of the last 4 Super Bowls. They're big enough now. They're big enough now to where that it's a decent. I mean, it's a decent market. You don't have to worry about it. And again, very well traveled because they all got to go down to Arizona. So yeah, and it's an interesting matchup.
Yeah. And what is the deal with Arizona getting all the Super Bowls and college playoff games now? It used to be Los Angeles or Miami.
Next year it's in Vegas. So and then
we still can't get over
that,
it, Bobby.
Huh? What?
I still can't get over the NFL, all the leagues embracing Las Vegas.
The Las Vegas Raiders just blows me away. I just can't get used to that ever. But we get one down in New Orleans after that. We hadn't had one in a long time. There was a time when in the 70s, New Orleans had like 3 or 4 of them, and then in the 80s we had a couple, and we had a few in the 90s. I mean, we used to have a lot of them down here. And we haven't had one since 2012, since the lights went out. So now we're having one in 2025. But I don't know. I think Arizona's just it's environs. It's nice. It's gonna be nice and probably nice and warm down there. You never know.
Yeah,
but it's probably gonna be nice and warm. They like that. Nice and warm down there.
Yeah. By the way, the Chiefs have played 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls. They weren't in last year, but they were
2 of the last 3. Okay.
2 before it. But they have hosted the last 5 AFC Championship games.
That's right. Okay.
Which is
incredible.
That's a feat. But
that is something. Yeah. So they're a hot enough team that they may not be the biggest market or anything, but they're a pretty hot team because they're they got superstars.
Mm-hmm.
And they got a superstar quarterback. They've got a great tight end. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that tight end that Kelsey killed the the Jaguars. I mean, 14 catches. They were small. They 14 catches, but they kept moving the chains, and they weren't for 100 yards even. It just was so frustrating. It's like they couldn't cover him. And
he's amazing.
And I think he's got a brother that plays for the Eagles because there was a story about his mom. Which side line is she going to sit on?
He does, yeah. A brother Super Bowl again. They've been, at least one of those.
Yeah.
And now they're making a big deal about 2 quarterbacks of color or whatever.
Right.
For the first time against each other. I'm like, well, they've already had that happen with coaches back in the Super Bowl with the Bears and the Colts with Lovie Smith and Tony Dungy. I didn't even know Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I don't know exactly what his ethnicity is, nor do I care. He's a great quarterback. I don't care about that kind of stuff, but people are going to make silly big deal about that. But I just know that I think it's fair to say that you probably got the 2 of the best teams in football and two of the two top teams from their conferences. So that's all you should really want from a Super Bowl. You want the best from each conference.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just someone who's an outsider that wants to see a good game.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you're going to get that.
We don't want a repeat of the NFC Championship game where everybody tunes out at halftime.
Andy Reid doesn't do that. If there's something happens that your boy Mahomes going to go, he'll put Chad Henne in there, and Chad Henne will at least throw the football.
That was so frustrating watching that daggum game. The Jaguar, I mean, the former Jaguar Chad Henne, who could not do much here, all this stuff, had only a couple drives, but one of them was that touchdown drive when Mahomes just went 95 plus yards. Why can you not get one stop? You stop them. Don't let the backup get a touchdown. It could have been a different game, but
yeah, I'm just saying, Andy Reid's not the kind of guy to sit on the football with everything on the line.
No,
I didn't think Shanahan would have been either, but so yeah, it's gonna be a tough one, man, because that Eagles defense is tough. I don't know how the Casey handling Hurts, how that's gonna work.
Well, I
49ers did a pretty good job against him, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense is pretty good. I mean, Hurts didn't exactly run wild on him, did he?
No, statistically,
he didn't have to because of what happened, but he didn't have to, though.
No, and that's the thing. He didn't even have to throw the ball, really, because he was only at 15 or 25 for 120 yards passing. He ran 11 for 39 with a touchdown. So
when the game was still in doubt, I saw them. They were doing a fairly decent job of getting in his lanes and stuff like that, make him throw the football. So a good defense can.
Yeah, he averaged less than 4 yards a carry, so they did a good job holding him in terms of gaining on the ground.
Yeah.
But yeah, and even then, I don't know. I think turnovers and field position came into play in this one because Philadelphia didn't really have to do much, really. But it's we've got the matchup though between the two teams. Some things we can expect come down the road. Hopefully it'll be as good a game as in reality as it is on paper. So, if anybody in the chat's got any questions or any thoughts or something, feel free to share with us. We're not going to go through all of our Super Bowl thoughts tonight because next Friday we're planning on having another 7 p.m. Friday night talking about the big game coming up, and I got to promote it in ways that I guess I can't say the right words, but you'll know what game. There's only one football game that matters. The rest of the and all of football season will be over. The college is gone. The NFL will be done, and now we'll have the long drive run till August. And I tell you, maybe next week we talk some Super Bowl commercials, especially if you in the chat like it, because the missus loves the Super Bowl commercials. There's some Super Bowls we weren't going to watch, but we just decided, hey, you know what, the hell with it. We're going to watch because of the commercials.
They haven't really been very good lately to me. The past couple of years, the Super Bowl commercials have been lame to me. I mean, I don't watch for the commercials like some people do, but I understand a lot of people do. And later, the thing is, all you have to do if you don't feel like sitting through the Super Bowl, a hot tip, everybody, you could later after it's over, you can go watch like NFL Network. After they get all the coverage done of the game, they'll show this special that shows all the commercials back to back.
Yeah,
someone else. But anyway, commercials have been kind of lame to me lately. But who knows? Maybe
I agree. But every once in a while they hit a good one. Every Puppy Monkey Baby or one of those a few years ago. But I mean, that's been at least 5 years ago. I mean, it's been a while. And even the missus agrees, that the creativity is lacking.
My favorite part is the halftime show because I don't listen to it. I walk out of the room and do stuff for an hour. I never pay it. I hate the halftime show so much.
Absolutely.
So I'm out of there and then when I go in there and hang out with the guys and all the women at the party, Super Bowl party, wherever I'm at, they all go watch the halftime show.
Yeah,
that's stereotypical, I know, but
I got to thank Jess out there, one of my mods, putting links out there. Thank you for all that, for your hard work, Jess, and being here. Yeah, I was actually, the missus and I were we were at a church once that thought about, let's have the Super Bowl on Sunday night. So we did, it was there. Unfortunately, I was not in there watching the halftime show at the point, but we were in the church, and all of a sudden, it was the Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake wardrobe malfunction night.
Yeah.
It was
Panthers,
like,
Patriots.
it was like, oh, hello. I could imagine the shock faces, but yeah, it was talk about ironic timing with that.
That was a good Super Bowl. It was Panthers, Patriots, and it was in Houston.
Yeah, it was a good one. I will admit that. I like that. It was funny when Tampa Bay that year beat the Raiders, though. That was
a terrible Super Bowl, but yeah.
But yeah, but for a little Florida pride, you feel good
Oh
for
yeah,
the
yeah.
Tampa Bay people. All this, all the history of suffering that they had. Of course, I felt better for them back then than I do now. Because now they have the Brady experience, but and we'll talk about some things like that. Some of our Super Bowl memories over the years. Um, you know, I have some memories from some Super Bowls, but I got them either from NFL films or from books I read. Because at the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
I don't know if I was too young to watch, didn't care to watch what, or just don't remember. Um, I think the first Super Bowl I remember is the Dallas Denver one that I really
1977.
remember. Hmm.
I did the
So,
Super Bowl 12 in the Superdome.
yep, I
Orange
remember that.
Crush, boy, in Denver. They had the Broncos had a big fan following there.
Yep,
Orange
but
Crush.
Cowboys went and did that, took care of business. So we'll probably we're scheduled to have a few other guests with us next week, and um,
Cool.
it'll be fun. But you got any other thoughts? Anything else that's popped up in your mind since we've been talking about the playoff games or
No,
football in
man.
general?
Not particularly. No, I think that's good. We can have a lot of fun. Building up for it to it next week. Talking about stuff. I love NFL films also. So
Hmm.
I like the. I'll be going and they show like all the old Super Bowl NFL films highlight stuff, and those are fun to watch. I love that stuff. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one thing's for sure: the Cowboys were not there again this year.
that is going to be for sure.
I know. I tell you, I'm telling you. When you said it before, you keep saying it. That I don't think I agree with you. I don't think they'll ever win again with the current ownership.
And he ain't going nowhere.
I do because and this is one of the other topics we talked about quarterbacks, importance of quarterbacks, like you know Lawrence Lawrence has got potential. Mahomes is the younger one. Hurts, but I just Dak Prescott is just I don't think I think he's going to be
No.
a satisfactory regular season quarterback, but he won't carry them to a Super Bowl because like we saw last against the
Agreed.
Niners. And I think you've seen enough with him that I think the franchise needs to not worry about paying him more money, but just maybe start the process of going in a different direction. Josh Allen in Buffalo is one that apparently does a lot of good stuff in the regular season, but look what happened in the last game.
Yeah.
Jury's still out on him. Can he really carry a
yeah,
team?
he'll get there. I mean, look how long it took for Peyton Manning to have success in the. I'm not comparing to Peyton Manning, but look how long it took him to have success in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
Look how long it took.
Yeah,
Long time.
and that's the thing, though. And I guess we're comparing the two. Prescott's had a number of appearances in the playoffs to establish a track record. Yeah,
He's done nothing.
Allen's still young and not has had as many playoff games, and so maybe he will carry the team later down the road. But I heard one Pete Prisco with the NFL, who's a local, but he was on the show here today that he took the position that Allen was pressing more in the playoffs towards the end and in the playoffs, are trying to do too much, which especially with some of those running quarterbacks when they're not used to reading the progressions and they're used to taking the ball and running. And I know how we've talked about running the run first type quarterbacks. Can they mature? Can they develop into a complete quarterback and a passer, not just a scrambler and a runner? So and that goes a long way to helping out the offense and carries you in the playoffs. Sometimes you need to run, but you need to run judiciously and protect your body and stay in the game.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, sir.
all righty. Well,
Indeed.
we're going to call it an early night tonight. We've gone an hour. We covered everything we needed to. We previewed for next week. You get to get some rest before your next appearance later. Where are you showing up later tonight, Clobby?
Our good buddy Nick Weiser's stream at 8:30 Central. Of course, every Friday night he has the Nick's Comic Shop show, and the Nick and the Comic Shop boys and I will be reviewing Infinity Gauntlet #5, a comic review there for the Nick and the gang. And and of course tomorrow night, Saturday Night Star Trek at 9 Central Standard Time on my channel.
Absolutely.
And it's Sunday with a great Mark C. Excuse me, Mark C. That's Mark C. Comics. I'll call him Mark D with a C.
Yeah.
On Sunday night with the Geekery, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mark C's the comic shop show, the comic talk show I do on Monday nights.
Yeah, and I show up there with y'all sometime a bit over there on Sunday nights too. Always go give Mark some help and support. Indeed. He's a great guy, great streamer. And of course, go support Clobby if you like Trek. It's the best place to go find your Star Trek. I will tell you, I will pitch your show a little bit too, because it is a wonderful chat and things, and they accept all opinions. You may be different, but hey, it's like being with a group of friends. You go and respectful of everything, and you may have a different opinion, but hey, y'all are great. You and Raquel with that show, Clobby. You really are.
Thank you, buddy.
But let me say, hi to Brian Hepburn. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
I hope you didn't. My earliest tweet didn't go bombing, get people confused. Thanks to Clobby, we got it set for the right time tonight. But hey, glad you made it here, Brian. And if you go back, and we're about to wrap up, but can go back and watch the video and like it and comment on it too, and see what we had to say for the last hour. Some good insight, some good talk. Before I forget, let me promote my own self a little bit, because this is a big weekend. Bear with me a second, Clobby, if you don't mind. Mm-hmm. This video, when this goes to it gets uploaded to YouTube, whatever you call it, whatever it's happened, they do with it, or what it's called. Yeah. Oh, Brian just got done working. Catch on replay. Cool. Please do so. Yes, it was a great show. It was a great show.
Cool.
And what's significant about this show, when it gets loaded up as a video, between my pre-recorded stuff and these live streams, it'll be my 100th video on YouTube.
Cool. Wow.
So
I'm honored.
You appeared on my 100th video, Clobby.
Honored, sir.
And then that's on top of tomorrow, starting at 12 noon Eastern. I'm going to try to go 24 hours, and got a schedule, got an agenda, got people, times to come by. There'll be some chatting. There'll be some stuff to do. Bear with me 1 second while I try to find something. I'm going to do this real quick. Didn't have this prepped, but I just got a thought about doing something real quick, if you don't mind, Clobby.
No problem.
But yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast, and it's going to be challenging to my ability to manage multiple things at a time, which I don't do very well, folks. It's bad enough boomerang, but then it happens a lot. Let me do this though quickly. Let me make sure I just got to make sure screens are shut and stuff like that. Okay. Let me add this to the stream. We have a schedule, actually. Starting at noon, I'm going to do a little bit of a chill chat. I think the missus will be on with me, kind of talk about the channel, why we got started, and just some background stuff. And then throughout the day and all, we're going to have games and talk. So at 1 o'clock, I'm going to play a game, Ticket to Ride, that I've done a few times already. 2 to 3, please join me for the SEC football recap. I'm going to take a look at each division in SEC, give my comments, and talk about what I see going forward. I think I'm a minority in the Florida Gator camp because I'm not as hopeful as I hear some of the talking heads talk. Um, 3 to 5, we're going to have a chat with friends, and we're going to I have invites out, and hopefully some people can drop by, say hi for a few minutes as they can um, during that time, hang out. And then from 5 to 8, we're going to do some Fortnite, and then at 8 to 10, we're going to do another chat session, and then at 10 to 12, we're going to have a chill chat focusing on specific strange news in the stream. Then overnight, we're going to go into gaming mode, which is 12 to 1, a game Rogue Squadron. Last time it bombed on me, it crashed on me in the middle of the game, but Brian was there watching with me. Then we're going to do another Fortnite, 1 to 4. I'm going to try to play Fall Guys if I can make sure it all works up at 4 to 6. Going to go old school retro, the Atari 50th anniversary, some of the old Atari 2600 games, and even some of the more later Atari games for an hour. Another ticket to ride 7 to 8, and another chill chat for an hour, featured to be followed by 2 hours of Uno with the missus and a couple other people. I hope that we got lined up, and then finally, we're going to do another chat session, wrap up, talk about the stream, say thank you to everybody, and all that stuff. So that's the agenda. Put it out on Twitter earlier today. So, and thank you, Daisy Blossom. Yes, it is. I appreciate it. Yeah, and the 24-hour stream. Absolutely. So, all right. And you know what? We've got 9 people here watching. Thank you for the people that have come through, the comment left, that have come and gone. Thank you for you people that are lurking, just watching and maybe not chatting. Thank you so much for being here. Go back, watch the videos later for what you missed. Like, subscribe on the YouTube side. We'll keep driving that number up, and we'll do it on the Twitch side with the followers there too. So on that note, I want to thank you, Clobby, again, as always, for your time.
Thank you, buddy.
And go support him on his channel and with all the stuff that he mentioned. And folks, on that note, I will say good night.
Good night, everybody.
I'm going to try to go to bed at a decent time tonight for once.
Yeah, so, you better get some rest, buddy.
Yeah. You all have a good night. See you tomorrow at noon. Bye.